Today we're going to talk about how Mordechai was the second to command to Achashverosh, how he had the backing and the liking of most of the Sanhedrin, although some of them, they separated ways with him. As Rashi states, the reason that they separated ways with him, and is described in the end of the Megillah, is because he was involved with matters that pertain to the community, and therefore he was not able to learn Torah as much as befitting someone in the Sanhedrin. And this is expressed in the pasuk that says that Mordechai Yehudi was the Mishnah of the Melech Achashverosh, the Rei Vachav to most of the people in Sanhedrin, but not all of them. In fact, the Gemara states that learning Torah is more important than being matzal nefashes, saving souls. And the reason being is because we find by Mordechai in Sefer and Nehemiah and Ezra that he is demoted and his name is listed 5th and 6th, respectively, and not at the beginning of the verse. So what was it about Mordechai's approach that was either correct, and he should have gotten everyone on board, or if it wasn't the correct approach, then why wasn't it that he went along with the people that separated from him and followed their path of completely being devoted to learning Torah? So in order to understand this, we're going to start with the story of the Frierdiker Rebbe. When the Frierdiker Rebbe left Russia and he came to Riga, he put together a Vad, and he wanted that there should be many Rabbanim that would convene, and they would have this membership, and they would discuss their fellow Yidden in Russia and what they can do to help them in their dire circumstances. And one of the people they wanted to join this membership was the Merovitch. And when he was asked to join, he said that him joining is dependent upon an argument between the Jerusalem Talmud and the Talmud Bavli. And what was this machlekes? It says that the Hasidim Harishainim, the pious individuals of early generations, they used to daven for 9 hours a day. They would prepare for an hour, daven for an hour, and then after davening, they would take an hour, and if you do it for Shachar, it's Mincha and Ma'ariv 3 times a day, it's 9 hours. So the Gemara asks, what about the rest of their Torah and their other Avodah that they had to do? So the Gemara Bavli explains that since they were these pious individuals, their Torah was mishtameres, their Torah was protected, and the rest of their work had a special blessing in it. The Gemara Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, explains that these pious individuals, they had their Torah misbareches, and so too their other Avodah was also had this blessing. So what's the difference between the Gemara Bavli and the Gemara Yerushalmi? According to the Gemara Bavli, these people, while they were involved in doing holy things, their Torah was mishtameres, it was protected. In other words, they didn't lose out on anything that they already had. They didn't forget their Talmud, but it wasn't as if they were exceeding and expounding and going to new heights as if they had the time to learn more. On the other hand, according to the Gemara Yerushalmi, these people, by being involved in these holy endeavors and pursuits, they had this special blessing that their Torah was also misbareches. That is, they were able to accomplish in a small amount of time to exceed and reach new heights in Torah as if they had all the time that they gave up for other things devoted completely to Torah. So according to the Gemara Bavli, it's just protected. According to the Gemara Yerushalmi, it's also blessed, the minimal time that they have to continue learning, that not only do they not forget, but they also reach new heights. So the Merovitch, he said that since the halacha follows the Gemara Bavli, therefore it comes out that by him being involved in this membership, he is going to be missing out on learning Torah and reaching new heights, and therefore he doesn't want to be involved, but he wants to completely learn Torah. So this was the reasoning of the Merovitch, and the reason being is because the Gemara Bavli is described as b'machashakim heshivani, which means that in like the darkest Hashem answered, and that is the Gemara goes through a lot of questions and clarifications, and a lot of sweat and toil goes into finding the correct approach, the correct answer. But on the other hand, the Gemara Yerushalmi is like the lights are on in a room. You come in, everything is bright, everything's in front of you, and therefore it's easier and the more apparent the correct and obvious approach of Torah. So therefore these two approaches are reflected in the way they say what's blessed and what's protected. So therefore he wasn't going to join this membership. So what was it about Mordechai Yehudi that he took this approach, which is going seemingly against the Gemara of saying completely learning Torah is more important than being matzal nefashes, and also against this approach of completely being devoted to learning Torah and developing Torah? So we can say that in essence there is a huge advantage to completely being devoted to learning Torah, and that's the pristine state of learning Torah, being completely devoted, learning Torah throughout the whole day. But on the other hand, if you don't look at the advantage, but you look at what's the contention of creation and what Hashem desires, that is that Hashem wants a home in this world, and Hashem wants us to elevate every person, every place, every circumstance we're in, and teach every single person Torah and connect with Hashem. And therefore, Mordechai Yehudi, he was devoted to this intention of reaching out to every single Yid, making sure that everything was good for him, and making sure that he was in a place that he can connect with Hashem on his own level. And this is also reflected in the Tanad Ve'Eliyahu that says that Sanhedrin, which were the people that were teaching Torah to the Yidden, really they should be traveling all around, teaching everyone Torah, making sure everyone's up to par with Torah, mitzvahs, and devoting themselves to all the tasks that are associated with teaching people Torah and traveling around. And even though by traveling around they're going to be in a lesser position, and that means that they're not going to be able to execute everything that they need to do, which the Sanhedrin is allowed to do only when they're in a place of Yerushalayim, nevertheless, the Sanhedrin, really that's what they should be doing. So Mordechai had this approach of making sure that everybody had their welfare taken care of and making sure that everyone was connected to Hashem in their own way. And therefore, it came out that he had only the backing of most of the Sanhedrin, but not all. And the reason being is because a lot of the Sanhedrin were people from Yerushalayim, and therefore they had the approach of the Gemara Yerushalmi, that Torah misbareches, and even though you're not going to be learning Torah the whole time, nevertheless, by being devoted to the community cause, your Torah is going to be blessed, and you won't be missing out. But furthermore, you'll also be achieving and exceeding and ascending to higher heights as if you were completely learning Torah. So therefore, that's why it says that only some of the Sanhedrin they separated from Mordechai. It doesn't say that they didn't find favor in what he was doing, or it says that they separated from him. It means that they had a different approach, being because a minority of the Sanhedrin was people from Bavel, and therefore they had the Gemara Bavli approach that if you're going to give yourself over to helping the community, you're going to be missing out on your learning Torah. So now, what does this mean for us? We have the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe, we found that he would steal time from his daily schedule in order to help other Yidden, even though there was a lot of tasks associated with that, and we're not learning Torah, but nevertheless, he gave himself over to doing these tasks, and that's a lesson for all of us, that we should do whatever we can to help other Yidden, because there's an advantage to learning Torah a whole day, but the purpose and the intention of creation is that we should go out into the world and make sure that everybody's connected and everyone has whatever they need, and that was exemplified by the Frierdiker Rebbe. And it means to us, every single one of us, that we should do whatever we can to be in a position of authority, to help other Yidden, to seek the welfare of the Yidden. Like by Mordechai, it says Derish Tev, that he was seeking out always the good for his people. And it means for every single individual. It says our neshama comes down, it's a descent. It's a descent into this world, because before it came down, it was basking in the light of Hashem. And now it comes into a world where you don't see godliness. But nevertheless, we have the ability and the blessing. We have the blessing that whatever we do should be successful, and we shouldn't be missing out on any of the Torah that we're learning. And just like it means by every individual, his neshama coming down into this world is here for that intention, so too it means every person in his own household. It says that a chassan, he goes down a level, and a chos darga, and that means that he's going down and he's going to be occupying himself with many daily tasks that he wasn't involved with before. But nevertheless, you have the ability to be tseir b'beisei, to be the master of the house, to bring godliness and light into the house. And through doing this, we will light up the world, and for the Yidden, it will be light and joy with the coming of Mashiach speedily.